All right.
Great
We
track.
are live. Welcome back to the Trainman Report.
Woo!
We've got the
Heyo.
train
Choo
man
choo.
himself, Alex
Yeah.
Montagano. We got Chris Chrome in the house.
What
What's
In
up,
up,
the
sissy?
house.
guys?
My name is Holden Stephan Roy. What up, NDG? This is the Trainman Report, where it is the super local news
Super
report.
local.
As in, like,
Yeah.
if you don't live in NDG, it probably isn't necessarily for you, but we encourage you to stay anyway so you can be apprised of local issues that are probably equally as relevant to your neighborhood wherever you are. You're part of a place with local politics, and you're probably also finding it kind of boring. And that's what the Trainman Report's about, adding that choo choo magic to the news and giving you a little bit
Everyday
more
life.
context and caring. What's up, Olivia has ADHD in the chat on Twitch. It's nice to see you there.
Oh, there we
And
go.
it's also a community show. So make sure that you throw in your comments and your questions, and we encourage y'all to be a part of it. So we got Chris Chrome to come represent people. Which people? The people that are like Chris, the maybe probably doesn't vote population, and have them involved, and so that he can speak for those of us that aren't geeking on local politics. Because let's be real, Alex, you and I, we are not the norm on this topic. The fact that we're passionate about this is not regular. We're the out there ones, and I think we know it.
Yeah, definitely not normal. That's true. But that's something to celebrate, isn't it?
Facts.
Definitely. Definitely. I would say
Yeah.
that just to introduce myself, I am a local of NDG Montreal. I have been living on the island for at least 7 years. And I kind of just, my day job is I work from home.
You
And
gotta
my
either turn your mic down or go back from your mic.
check, is that better?
Much better.
Perfect.
I think
So,
I think I need to get one of these big mics. Like they look cool. It's like, why don't I have one of those things?
Because you have like extra gear you need. Like I have a whole extra fucking box over there that I plug the mic into, and yours just plugs into your computer.
That's
And
true.
for
Yeah.
all terms and purposes, it's gonna be good enough.
fair, fair.
Fair enough.
Um, so for my day job, I work from home. Outside, sorry about that. Outside, I perform music, I promote shows, I do video editing. Kind of a lot of the artistic, creative stuff is generally what more of my niche is and what I'm interested for. But I think part of why I'm here today is because I'm genuinely curious about what is happening in my city, what is happening around, and just things that I may not be aware of. And I'm not too good at like finding the proper spots to go to find those without, I guess, conversating with friends or something like that, like a friend like Holden. But that's where
And
I am here today.
Chris
Well,
resides in NDG as well, and just to give him some flowers, we have helped make Cliff and them some money over at the Wheel Club. We have
That
helped
is true.
bring some population from outside of the borough into the borough, and that's what I take some pride in, because I know it's a bit of a segue into our first conversation of the art and cultural scene, but I think one of the things the artists in this community maybe should focus on is how we can get outside dollars into our local establishments to create real business case to restore some expensive theaters or maybe keep bars open past a year or two, you know?
yeah, that is an excellent point because you know, NDG, and please stop me if I'm wrong, but I don't really think that people consider it as a go-to place for arts and theater. So I think
I
that's
mean, where would they go to?
yeah, it's a good question, and I know that I participate in the art hop, which is more visual arts, painting, that kind of stuff. I'm in there because of my train miniatures. Don't ask me how I got in. Helen Mayer, I love you. God bless your soul for inviting me to participate because it's a
Eh,
lot of
counts.
fun. But and we do have another miniaturist also who participates, Tamara Cohen, who does just beautiful work, just awesome. Um, but I digress. The point I was trying to make is that Helen Mayer made the point that NDG per capita has one of the highest levels of artists in the city. And are you guys familiar with the Porch Fest? It's insane. It's an insane festival.
Porch
It's
Fest is
I've
massive.
heard
pretty.
of Porch Fest, yes.
So Porch
It-
Fest is very
huge
family
turnout.
friendly.
Yeah.
Very family friendly. So why I bring that up is because we are maybe in a genre of music upon which family friendly is not the first words you would associate with it. And while it's been made clear to me I could get into Porch Fest if I tried harder, I would also then need to come with like a solid hour of non-profane music, which does in fact make it a little more complicated for me to get into Porch Fest.
So you guys, Holden and CC Chrome or Chris Chrome, you
But
guys,
all respect to them, by the way, because it really is cool what Porch Fest does.
Absolutely.
It is. But back on you guys, what do you guys consider yourselves? Do you consider yourselves in the R&B?
No, we rappers.
Or rap? You
Yeah,
call
no.
you're
I would-
rappers. That's it.
Rappers and songwriting. Like, listen, I enjoy singing. Whether you enjoy my singing is up for debate. But the
Fair.
rapping side, like the performing, like we're songwriters. We create our own original music. Often how this will work is you find a beat maker and you license and work out an arrangement to use the music. And then you write your song, and then you go pay your engineer to make it sound good. You know, basic mixing stuff. It's much, much cheaper than what bands have to put up with. All love to anybody that deals with drummers. And then you go perform the music. So we go by somewhere like the Wheel Club, who, for the record, has some of the most nice live sound engineering I have experienced in the city. Like, I don't... If you're not in the local music scene, this might not count for much for you, but often you'll be in a situation where the sound man is maybe not great, for lack of a better term, or the sound system isn't great. But the Wheel Club is just beautiful. It sounds amazing, and the
from
guys who
personal
work there
experience,
make you sound good while you're live.
but it's also consistent. Like they make you sound good because they were also having their like weekly ciphers on Tuesdays. I don't know if I've heard it moved, but I would go to the weekly ciphers and they would live EQ you even there. Like it was more of everything that they did at the Wheel Club was kind of really about creativity and the art. Yes.
Okay, guys, for the guys like me out there, old farts. Ciphers. What does that mean?
That's basically more of a jam session. I believe that's what you cats would call them, a jam session.
Okay. Now I remember seeing like NMM movie, right, where they have like kind of rap off kind of contests. It's kind
so that's more like rap battling in a sense where they're kind of going at each other.
That's
and
right.
Your goal is to like
here.
rap the person.
Right.
A cipher.
That's not what I do.
The cipher, in my opinion, because I know there's like people
have you ever seen a bunch of guys in a circle just kind of rapping indefinitely?
Yes, I have.
That's essentially
like
what
that.
A cipher is.
So it's
guys,
people
you feed
just
each
freestyling
other
off the dome. Everyone's often, if they're writing beforehand, they've just got books like this, and so they've memorized that much of their own stuff, and so you either come up with stuff on the spot, but you're usually just, tapping into your best material, and you'll just have a bunch of people keeping it going. So the Wheel Club was trying to create a jam night of sorts that would invite a bunch of people to come in and perform, but back to like, I guess the bigger issue of when I said kind of sarcastically, where would you perform before? It's because there's the Wheel Club, there's Honey Martin, but I mean, come on, if you're a rapper, it's not really an option.
Right.
So shout out the Wheel Club for letting us come, because already there's like those two, then maybe there's Goldie's, but it's not really known as a venue. And then what other establishments are we performing at in this neighborhood?
I asked the question. What other?
Because like Shaika Cafe used to exist. If you had clean music, they're gone. Amazon's is or not Amazon's. The bar next to it, that one's gone. I know Amazon's is still there. It survived. But like you look around and yes, there's some outdoor festivals, but that requires city approval. And I bring that up because that means the city got to be on board with what you do.
Right.
And maybe if you're a bunch of rappers, the city's less on board with what you do than if you're a bunch of comics, and that's okay. I mean, I'm not saying that anything's better or worse or whatever, but there is some reputations and stuff that get explored. So when you leave public stuff up to the city, it throttles your art scene, and it definitely doesn't make it as lit as it could be. There is all the not-for-profits. Like, I got involved with Notre Dame des Arts, so technically I'm a board member there, and I'm learning about how that works. But the truth is, the city doesn't have the money it used to have in middle of COVID to do stuff. So there's just less grant money flowing from our socialist art scenes government. There's not a lot of venues for private operations here, so it's like, while there's more opportunity for a visual art scene with stuff like that cafe on Côte Saint-Luc Road, whose name a lot of these storefronts, or like, shout out what my homie Melanie's doing at Phoenix Books, where spoken word poets and other things can come perform there. There isn't really a lot of focus on real live music venues that exist here.
That I remember as a young man, that always used to be like I was involved in the night scene or the club scene, if you could use that, they say that word. And I do remember back in the day when I was a young man, there weren't a lot of live music, venues in Montreal as compared to other cities. The focus in Montreal, if I remember correctly, was more on the club scene, right? Is that a fair statement that I'm making?
Even to that end, you can always turn a club into a venue.
True enough.
Night.
But I'm kind of asking that open question.
I would say it's a mix. There is probably less live music per capita than I would like as a musician than I would like. But I would say, no, there's a lot of live music, like a ton of it, across all genres you can think of, across all these neighborhoods that are not NDG is more where I would go with it. Because if you go to Saint Laurent, as an example, and granted, obviously, this is more of the heart of the city, so it's maybe an unfair comparison, but you go there and you'll find everything from tango music to hip-hop to punk music to club music all on the same street. Downtown has taken some hits, actually, with venues, in my opinion, and bars and stuff, so it's hard to, like, fully put it there, but all over the plateau, there's a whole bunch of stuff to go perform at, and I think what ends up happening, though, is you end up having a lot of young people, especially our young musician types, actually leaving NDG to go live in other parts of the city because, bro, it's a $40 cab ride home from Saint Laurent when you're at Blue Dog. And like to where I'm at least. And that kind of stuff, imagine you're young. You really going to live where it's $40 cab ride home from the parties? No.
So I guess for me, like somebody who frequently does go to like Saint Laurent Street, chills in all the bars and stuff, and then comes home to NDG, I would say like NDG has more of a family oriented vibe to the whole thing, right? How would you like change that into making it more litty? Like that's part of where I think I end up getting stuck with the question of how I would want to change in this community.
Oh, and then there's that Rumors place also on Saint Jacques. I forgot about that one. Whatever Rumors is called now. I don't know what it's called now.
Like
it's a rumor. It's a rumor.
Fair. No, that's kind of just what I would have to ask, I guess, to maybe you guys or just
okay, let me flip the question on you. What the fuck would make you want to stay in NDG on a Friday night?
So for me, I would like to be able to have a spot.
Let's keep in mind, Chris is a 30-year-old non-homeowning parent. Sorry, non-homeowning non-parent. He's not a parent and he does not own a home. And he's 30 years old and he's a culture creator within the city. So that's the concept.
But I have a question to add to that. Do you have any pets?
Yes, I have 3 cats.
Oh, okay. He's a cat guy. Okay, good. All right.
I have a cat.
You can abandon your cats on a Friday night. You can do that.
I mean, they're not abandoned. They got food, water.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Cats are independent enough that you can go out on Friday night, you come back, and there's no love lost there. Is what I'm trying to say.
No. See, I guess that's like a hard question because I know of like the Wheel Club, and because I can rap there and do like what I love to do, and I guess I kind of have my little spot. I think it's more what I enjoy about, let's say if I'm comparing it to Saint Laurent Street, there's just the atmosphere of like people and the busyness, and it feels more like NDG's quiet. And I think like for me, what I would want to be able to do is like, let's say, walk down Sherbrooke and have all these different interactions happening, all of these different things kind of going on. I wouldn't really know how to
So
accomplish that.
hypothetically, and this might make people irate as a solution, if we were to shut down Sherbrooke from cars and have a chunk of it be like a walking path and it just became like a whole urban center, you'd be like, damn, I don't even need to leave.
Yeah, 100%. Because I feel like it's like when they do that on Mount Royal Street, right? They shut it down, and then you can walk between the streets, and you can put up like little pop-up shops or just local book fairs or however. And I just think that it would give people more an opportunity to come together with one another. Because at least remember when we wrapped at Cosmos, that's kind
that was
of
lit.
like if that when we wrapped at Cosmos and that street was blocked off Sherbrooke, I think we would have gotten more traction. And that, as an artist in the city, I think kind of helps me and would make me a little bit more happier in that way. But since it's given like it's just car after car after car, I don't feel like people are really stopping to slow down to see the city unless you go through the backways.
Peter
question-
McQueen stopped though, so shut up, Peter McQueen.
A question to you guys. I know that in Girard Park, they were doing comedy like nights.
They are, yes. They
That
still
was
do
kind
those.
it was kind of improvised. Was that something that was just done by an individual that brought that together?
Yeah, it's Walter.
What's the
Oh
story?
no, not
behind-
Walter. It might be Zach Kick.
Yeah,
Zach
so
Kick.
I heard it's Zach. So what's the story about that? Zach just decided to start doing this thing in the park.
Personally, and I have no proof of this, believe that they just started doing it without city permission, but unlike me, did not get shut down by the city as it grew and got more organized. I say this with all the pettiness in the world, and it's not fair to them, but I am salty about their in the park thing, because at the same time, I stole their idea, and I'm like, fuck that. I'm renting a speaker too and going to Girard Park, and we started throwing an open mic thing. And when it was an open mic thing, Sue Montgomery was in charge, and it was really cool, and I got shut. It was nice. Like, we ran it. We started it in September, ran it till like October. It was very late in the year, but it was kind of like pull up on Sunday, and we would just freestyle in the park, and arguably, it was not organized in the capacity of what I tried to do the following year. Following year, so what I found out is my artist peers don't want to pull up at nothing with their name not on a flyer, because whatever. And so I'm like, fine, let's have like some people on the flyer and make it a little more exciting. In my opinion, it's the same deal, but keep in mind the government changed, new mayor, new priorities. So that's just a fact of, I guess, what the mayor will do for your local neighborhood, or at least Sue was on board because she told me she was on board. I interviewed her and she was cool with it. She was so like
This is true.
it's just what it is. I never talked to Garcia, so I can't say she was on board with it or not. I won't speak for her, but I will say that I set out a whole flyer. I shared it to Thrive NDG, and somebody snitched to the damn city, and I got an email from the city saying that I didn't have a permit, and this was too organized of an event, and basically the police would show up. Don't play with me. Don't test my gangster. I'm the city. And I said
they did the same thing to me, by the way, and I did it anyway.
I can't afford it, right?
And the
Like,
cop
I can't
showed,
afford that beef.
and I said, no, you can't do this. This is a civil affair. The city wants to get in.
See, I
spat with
wasn't
me,
doing a
and-
civil affair.
Right.
I wasn't doing politics. It was, in fact, just a rap concert in the park for free without city permission.
Right.
Maybe I shouldn't have organized as much, but whoa, that comedy in the park on Saturday nights is mighty organized. And I'm pretty sure if we had thrown comedy in the afternoon featuring a bunch of artists and we never called it hip hop, we never used the term hip hop, I don't think I would have got shut down. And that's some real, like, I believe it but can't prove it stuff.
Yeah, but I'm having an old man moment again. Like, you guys said you're rappers, right? But then boom, you threw in the musical, like, I don't know what you call it.
I went to the Wheel Club. We just said fine. If
hip
the
hop.
city don't want us to do it in public.
What's the relationship between rapping and hip hop? To me, hip hop is
Racism.
different. is different
It's
than rap.
racism, Alex.
Okay, explain it to me.
Um,
I need this explained, please.
so typically,
Right.
hip hop attracts what is perceived to be a more dangerous crowd. And
I see.
in defense of the people who, because I will be as fair as possible here, in defense of the people who feel that way, I've personally borne witness to rappers pulling up at Girard Park while children are there and acting inappropriate in terms of their content. You weren't even there for that. This is just something I participated in an event one time, and I watched the rappers also try to make a scene out of it. And like, I can get how collectively as a culture we may have made it a little more difficult for us to be perceived as safe and family friendly. However, I still believe that it's a premise of fear that isn't really based in reality. We had multiple times where we pulled up at the park. We had an old lady give us crap because we didn't have a tip cup.
Yep.
But again, I'm coming back to the original question. I apologize again.
Because rap content is often filled with criminal references, there's a heavy association between gangster activity and hip hop in the mind of people. The general people,
right?
Can't really so it's not
perceived
as safe and family friendly.
But what's the distinction between the hip hop, the words hip hop, and rap? Is there any distinction or the same thing?
In the context of what hip hop would be, I guess, a general term of the culture that rap is a musical form of, but for practical terms and purposes, the same shit.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for clearing that up, because
no problem.
I didn't know that hip hop and rap. Because when you're talking about
more of a cultural thing, rapping is more the vocal thing. But then again, we could have 7 semantic debates with 7 people, and you'll get 7 distinctions. So, for practical points of views, if we call it a hip hop show, people picture a bunch of rappers showing up, which unfortunately I believe comes with all the baggage that comes with in the minds of people. And in fairness, I believe the comedy show smokes as much weed, we also will flagrantly smoke weed and do things too. Come on, it's a comedy show. Like, what? Of course they have people burning weed in their crowd. Like, what?
Well, comedy has a reputation of being very edgy as well.
And I think that comedy doesn't necessarily attract the same level of perceived violence, and that changes a lot. Also, and I can't speak for why. I can only speak for my understanding of the prejudices and assumptions and what I believe is the situation. People hear rap and the first thing they ask me is it family friendly? That is the first question I get about my music. Can you perform it in front of children? So you can see where people's priorities are with the genre based on, I guess, the questions you get asked. Now,
is this why it's so difficult for me to find a basketball court in Loyola? Is this related to this perceived, reality thing?
A basketball court in Loyola?
There's very few basketball courts in Loyola. Yeah, very few. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, we're the side of the tracks we're the side of NDG that probably did not get as much attention until recently after they gentrified the neighborhood. Which they've been doing for 20 years. Don't get me wrong, but systemically, it's going to take some time to catch up with, priority.
Yeah, I live in Loyola, not far from Cabbage. Sorry to interrupt you, Holden.
No, go for it.
Do that. But I live in Loyola, and I don't like. I remember searching for a basketball court, and it was difficult.
Well, they got the new one, thankfully, that they made over at Coffee Park, and that's really cool.
Right. Oh, they set up a basketball court there?
It's really nice. I didn't know that. I don't know if it was Christian that did it or if he was involved. I think he was involved at the time, but it's a couple of years now. But yeah, no, there's a I don't know why there's no basketball courts, but I would probably go with this side of NDG did not get as much funding until recently, and only then. Because, we moved in because it was the poor side, all things considered. When I moved in, rent was a lot cheaper in this hood. Yeah. And while it is no longer cheaper in this neighborhood, that is a relatively new phenomenon where, they've raised the average rent price of the Loyola area since I moved in about $700.
Wow. Well, we have a segment on inflation in this podcast, so we'll have to get to that. But back to you, CC, like about the whole like the call it the rap scene and the artistic scene and NDG. What do you think, like as you know, you're a millennial, right? So what do you think is holding you back in terms of like performing, exploring your art form in NDG? What is it that you need? Let me ask, what is it you need to be successful? In your mind.
I just need to know where I'm allowed to perform. I mean, I think me is a little bit different because of the particular type of genre of rap I do. I don't rap about the what everybody kind of raps about nowadays. I'm more about my emotions and like relationships and love. So I could
Chris is still
potentially
too X-rated.
fair
It's
X-rated.
adult
Yes.
let's just, there's not a lot of adult, like it's adult only places to go rap.
Yeah. And that's kind of like I just don't know where I'd be able to do that besides the wheel club. Like that's kind of what I would need in my city to succeed is kind of be told that I'm accepted in a way that the type of music I make, the type of art that I create is accepted within my city. I don't see that as much. I live right next to that beautiful painting on Sherbrooke and Madison in front of the Provisoire. So like I see art right out my side of my house, but I don't have anything that really speaks to the art that I'm making. That's where I guess I'm kind of struggling with trying to succeed in my city because if ever I want to go perform, if ever I want to go out and just do my thing, it's usually in the downtown area. It's usually on Saint Laurent. It's usually at places where they listen to the same type of music as we do. They play the same type of thing. Like I don't know a place here that plays current hip hop music
That's
or
a
just
fact
even
too. It's like even
90s hip hop
beyond,
music at
so yeah,
all.
like even just to add to what he's saying, beyond, okay, let's pretend like fine, there might be reasons why we can't have a bunch of music venues here, zoning bylaws, noise. I don't really know. It's not really my place. But there's not really anywhere that promotes music like that at all. It's not just hip hop. Like, do you see the rock music that gets created here promoted? Okay, Honey Martin sometimes, fine. But
Yeah.
what? Honey Martin has a capacity of like 100 people, if that. Like, it's not a shot.
It's a tight
like,
space.
if we're talking about the music side of the scene, because again, the art is the other side. I don't know. The visual art side is not my forte. I know they have stuff.
On the visual art side, I can tell you that there used to be the Hampton Gallery, and right currently in NDG, there really isn't any like, from what I know, gallery that's available.
And then everyone on the city side kind of actually just deflects back to how this should be private enterprise, but it's not profitable. Like I've seen all these people talk about how they should restore that theater thing on Sherbrooke by Girard Park.
Empress.
I don't know how much money it would cost, but like, are y'all really gonna go to these events that they're gonna throw there? Like, who's throwing concerts there currently? Like, people be skipping Montreal as a tour stop because we're a really hard city to market in. Because, believe it or not, the city throws a lot of free things, so people go to Quartier des Spectacles and all this other stuff. And so, like, if there's not gonna be some level of investment in, I guess, the arts, the musical arts beyond, again, in like a location that could centralize as a hub for young people in particular, then I don't see how anyone's creating a venue. So there's no business case to do it.
What about Loyola campus of Concordia University? When I was a student there, they have a bar there that's connected to the library, if I remember correctly. I know downtown it was called Reggie's. I forget what it was called in Loyola. And then also there you have the Oscar Peterson concert hall, right? There's actually a concert hall there. And there's also quite a few churches in NDG that I know in their basements. It's quite surprising like the stages they have, like the
so it's
this.
Let's say all of those became options. Like, just right. I lost a lot more money than I made doing events. Now, granted, I've never looked into the grant side of things, and maybe there is some money for me floating out there. But if there is, I have not seen a person educate me on the availability of this money outside at a city level. At a Quebec level, sure, I understand the grant game. At a Canada level, sure, I understand the grant game. But what I think would be required is some kind of clear incentive for entrepreneurs who want to create arts and culture in NDG to keep money here. Because, every time we go out, how much money we be spending on food and shit? When you come back to NDG
No,
at
I
1
hear
in the
you.
morning,
I hear you.
what's even open? What restaurants are even open here? You got
That is true,
Bustan.
too.
Maybe
I
you
gotta
got B12. I'll love to B12 and Bustan.
I got to be the devil's advocate and throw a wrench in here and ask the question. Are you guys ready? Is it a language issue?
No.
No, because where's the French version of it? It's not here either.
Yeah.
And if it was a language,
there's no reason. Yeah, but there's no reason for the French version to be here because it's not a francophone community.
St. Luke's probably got a lot going on.
And their
I bet there's a
audience
whole lot
isn't
of
here.
French rappers. What do you bet there's a whole lot of French rappers up in
Where,
NDG?
where are they rapping?
Well, I don't know. St. Luke's here. St. Luke's a pretty big school.
Okay, fair enough.
You could argue that's Côte St. Luc, but come on, it's full of NDG kids. Like it's half
right,
in
right.
NDG, half in
I
Côte
think
St.
the
Luc.
French rappers are rapping at the same places we're probably rapping, to be fair. Like, I don't
think they
see
go to
any.
Real Club. I think.
Well, I'm not saying Real Club. I'm saying like Saint Laurent.
Yeah, they probably
and,
go
like,
to Saint
Blue
Laurent,
Dogs
too.
and like Belmont.
And they probably go to Laval, South Shore, East, like Easter.
Like, I don't even see any. Excluding Wheel Club because I follow them on social media, I don't see any other promotion of any other sort of musical
It's
thing. It's
like
like
a
once or
lot of
twice a year in the summer.
To even
So
go
I-
beyond that, most bars are going to hire cover bands because cover bands are guaranteed to be crowd pleasers. So there's not a lot of investment. And it comes down to money. Like we did, without going into numbers, Notre Dame des Arts will pay you if you're an artist at our set, which means if you're my boy, you're not getting booked because conflict of interest and shit. Sorry, Chris. But I can tell you what the bands, I can't tell you what they got paid, but like, if we're actually doing this fairly, it's going to take real city intervention to adequately pay artists enough, because you talk to the artist side of it and it's 100% going to be the same conversation. But bro, I lose money doing this if you really equate your time to money and stuff. Like we're doing a show on Friday. Let's pretend we sell all our tickets. We're going to split $100 and it's going to be at the venue for like 6. We might get out at 2. That's a lot of, that's just at the show. So like if there's nobody investing in the artists here, then there's no capitalism that's going to take place to support the artist here. It has to kind of start, I think, at a civic level to get the ball rolling. It could be something like tax breaks. It could be, because there is things that the city could do to encourage people to open a venue if they really wanted to, if they really felt it. And then all them little restaurants and joints around that venue, at first everyone would be like, wah, 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 noise and teenagers. But yeah, teenagers got money. What are you trying to get rid of young people for? I thought y'all want money. I know that there are restaurants that survive on high schools. That's their only clientele, is the lunch rush in high schools. So like, give people a reason to be here. Like that pinball arcade is so cool. All love to them. That's a reason to be here. It's hidden as fuck and nobody knows where it is, but it's here over on, what is it, Girard and Maisonneuve, I believe. There's a little hidden spot. It's a pinball arcade, and they even got like a all-you-can-play night. That's cool. I haven't gone yet.
That's very cool. And on that note, we're going to go to our first commercial break for Wheel Club.
Yeah, shout out the Wheel Club.
So local establishment run by Clifford Schwartz, who also during the pandemic, when he was shut down, ran this really creative newscast called NDG TV. Which was very cool. It featured NDG artists. I was featured for twice for the Halloween madness of my street, and then DG I don't know was interviewed, and then I was also involved in an episode he did on my modeling of that I did of NDG CD. So it's very, very cool. So to Clifford Schwartz, an amazing
he's
man,
legit.
amazing contributor to the local community, along with Cindy Turner. I've got her name right, Cindy Turner, right?
Yeah, both of them are legit. Like for all of my criticisms, they are excluded from anything negative I could say. They let us use the place. They didn't charge us. They provided the sound guy for free. And everybody who came enjoyed the venue because the drinks is not extorting you.
And the drinks, excuse me, I just said, oh, you guys can still see me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will say as well that the drinks at Wheel Club are extremely reasonable. And I say that as a 50-year-old experienced drinker. So if you're looking,
I'm just cheap, and I'm saying they're good prices. I'm just cheap.
And if you want to go out, you're at home in NEG, and you don't want to go downtown and like be stuck downtown and have to pay like $40 cab ride to get home, and you want to be entertained, Wheel Club is a place to
Honestly,
go.
they have a lot of cool music.
Yeah.
Arguably, and it's not their fault that there's not a lot of hip hop there, but they do have a lot of stuff if you're into like 80s rock. Shout out to Wednesday night karaoke. I've been a couple of times. It's actually really fun. The homie Ramses holds that down. Like, they're really cool. Like, if you are a rapper and you want to go to the karaoke, Ramses will let you run your track. So
we should have Clifford. We should invite Clifford on the show.
Absolutely,
that would be a good
idea. I like
idea.
Clifford.
Yeah,
I really like have a lot of love for the support they gave us. Yeah, and I can't take that away from them.
I have a story about Wheel Club. If you guys would let me share it.
Go for it.
I was bored, and I said, I got to get out. I'm getting cabin fever, and I popped into Wheel Club. I go downstairs as you do. You know how it works there, and I come inside, and there's 30-piece big band. From the big band era, playing big band classics, Billy Vaughn. Guys, help me out here. The names of the big bands.
I'm sorry. That's a little before my time.
I'm sorry. This is an old man moment for you guys. Glenn Miller. There's another one. Perry Cole. Okay, there's other ones. Okay, I'm going to get myself in trouble because I don't remember them. But it was an amazing evening. So it was so cool. Trombones, trumpets, clarinets, the whole kit caboodle. And Clifford was there with Cindy, and they were mixing on the soundboard. It was quite a night. So on that note, should we move on to the next agenda item, which is snow? Let it snow.
Yeah, let's talk about snow. So
wait, should we sing? We sing a winter prelude to Christmas. They say, what is it?
I just gotta say, this app, I don't know if it's showing up. If y'all see that, this app that the city has with the colors of your snow removal,
blinded the whole screen. You blinded the whole screen.
Yeah, but the city has an online. Yeah, the city has an online app. There it is.
So that allows you to. I guess that's snitching out where I'm at, but. Blue is the side my car is parked on.
We all know where you live, Holden. Everybody does. Just come to terms with that. Own it.
I mean, I don't think it's that big of a secret, but so yeah, my car is parked on the blue side that is not being cleared, which meant I didn't have to wake up this morning and deal with moving my car by 7 a.m. But now my side of the street's cleared, the one I live on, and now I got to go deal with getting my car out later. But snow's here, everyone. Make sure to check your snow signage. And your parking stuff.
Need snow tires.
Absolutely. Yeah. You should have already had those snow tires.
Yeah, you should.
I already should have had them.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that. Slipping around in the streets today. It was a mess out there. Not really any significant snow removal operations in NDG other than the cleaning of sidewalks.
No, they were going to town because the map tells me where they're cleaning. I got the full. So you're right, it wasn't everywhere, but they also I was thinking how do you do this? Are you gonna block off all of Fielding? Nah, they did one side of Fielding, which is great because I didn't have to move my car. But then they're gonna probably tell me I got to move my car tomorrow because they're gonna do the other side of Fielding or something. So they're sectioning it off in chunks. They're gonna do part of Cavendish tonight, and is it fast enough? I don't know. But did you look up the budgets and all that?
I know that they had to raise the budgets for snow removal in the city by $200 million this year, and because of inflation, which is another part of our show tonight. And one of the reasons cited was that, believe it or not, which I was really surprised to hear, that excuse me, a lot of the parts for the snow removal equipment in the city of Montreal come from Ukraine. I'm like, what? Why would they come from Ukraine? But I guess that is causing supply chain issues for the city and raising their costs and maintenance costs. I really like to learn more about that because I just can't understand why the city of Montreal decided to create Ukraine as one of their suppliers. Maybe then they gave them a good price. Who knows? We live in a global economy, right?
I was gonna say I don't know if like that's actually just how it was. Everyone's like, nah, Ukraine's the plug for good snow removal stuff.
Yeah, maybe, maybe. Like you're always learning new stuff in this lifetime, right? But I will say that I do have some experience in snow removal as a contractor and dealing with the people who remove snow. And what I will tell you is that people don't like snow, and when it falls, it's an inconvenience and it's a source of countless complaints. And it's just part of the business. If you're in the snow removal business, is that you have to deal with irate customers who wake up, who can't get their cars out, who all want the snow removed at the exact same time, which is just not physically possible, right? So I guess I'm making this statement in defense of the city that every time it snows, we all have to exercise a certain amount of patience. But there is a Go ahead.
We're out there, like, because I started doing Uber driver now. So when I saw snow on Sunday, I'm like, I'm going to go try and get some surge money. It was not as pleasant. It was not what I was hoping for. But I was still out there, and they were working. It wasn't like they've been out there since the snow started falling, clearing the main streets. But then you're like, okay, so they have to clear the main streets. They have to clear the sidewalks. They have to clear where the cars are parked. And then
bus stops, hospitals, schools.
Then there's this whole other little contract for bike paths. So that one got executed mad quick, and everyone started posting pictures in Thrive. Look, they're freaking clearing the bike paths, but not the other roads. And then it was like, bro.
Wonder if now this may be a
different contractor. It's a different contract. They subcontract the bike path snow removal to a third party. It's not the city who's doing it. That's why. Go ahead, CC. What were you gonna say?
I was just having a wild thought. Like, imagine if, because I think about my apartment building, right? And it doesn't particularly affect me. I don't have a car. I work from home, so I don't really have to deal with the snow.
But you will be getting a car.
Yes. But the driveway to my apartment building, right? I was thinking, like, what if the government or somebody, private firm, however, could fund like the tempos? That could be a way to kind of help with some.
What?
You know the tempos you buy for the driveways?
Yeah.
That like block the snow?
Right.
Like,
bro, apparently that's just some Quebec shit, and nobody else does that but Montreal and Quebec.
So what if before winter, somewhere in like early November, it becomes like a thing where we're like, okay, we all put up our tempos. We all like, but it's funded. It's funded. So that like it helps with some sort of
apartment ass fucking person want to pay for your private driveway. No offense, but this is one time I'm not sure taxpayer money makes sense here, bro.
Right.
It's an idea.
But
I don't know if I would buy into that concept because I kind of like on Holden's side of that. Why would I pay for a tempo?
No,
because it's also like it's such a
protect your automobile.
Right? Like, it's like one thing if it was like, okay, should we pay for tempos to protect like a public parking lot area? Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe. And that would be interesting because we could all benefit from that. Or maybe they should just make a big public parking lot near Terrebonne.
Or maybe. All right, I really don't want to go down this road.
I'm not trying to be. I was a little bit, and I'm not trying to be too much of a shit disturber.
I really don't want to get into the public financing of tempos and parking spots. I know that's not going to go over well with a lot of people.
No, I don't think it's the best move for it.
Because if we do that, what that will do is drive car ownership and just make our streets even more congested. I have a question. Holden, you just purchased an automobile and you're using it as a source of income.
That's literally why I purchased it.
It's a revenue generator. Okay.
That's the only reason.
And you, CC, are going to buy an automobile. You just announced that just a couple minutes ago.
I announced it for him because I came up with the plan that Chris could also be using a car. Yo,
I see. So you
want to make some extra cash? honestly, on some real stuff, you want to make some extra cash and you kind of broke at home and you're really going through it right now.
Right.
Figure out a way to get $4,000 and buy a Toyota Yaris and then do Uber Eats and DoorDash. And you will make back that $4,000 plus insurance, no problem.
How long?
If you really grinded that was your job, you could, on just food delivery, pull 15 a week gross.
$1,500.
It would be a grind a week, but you'd be grinding. You'd be doing like 10-hour days, possibly all of them. But like I'm just saying, that's if you want to hustle. You could also just stop at 1,000 a week or whatever, but you would hit that number. It would be gross.
That's $4,000 a month. That's $48,000.
Which is not amazing, but if you broke, and that's all you needed, it is a path to having not broke in your life.
No, I hear you. I'm not criticizing. I'm just doing the math. But 48,000
Uber driver pays way better, but you need a newer car.
But $48,000, right? You have to cover the purchase price or the maintenance and the devaluation of your automobile and the fuel and maintenance costs, right?
That's still $48,000 you would not have without the automobile.
No. I'm just doing the math. I'm just going through the process.
But if you span it out properly, that one car with repairs, so add a couple thousand a year of repairs, could probably last you 2 years, no problem. Of which you're grinding out this food delivery, and as long as you're not buying the first piece of crap car, you do a little bit of thrifting. And I picked a Yaris on purpose for food delivery because like the fuel efficiency is like fucking 1.7 liters for 100 or something. Mm-hmm. So it's like
I'm not gonna do plug for car manufacturers, but Toyota does have a good reputation. Yes,
but that one model is stupidly efficient for like food delivery purposes. It's garbage for people delivery purposes because it's tiny and you'll get one starred, but like it's good for food delivery. But with that being said, I do think that there's a lot of people who use their automobiles for work related purposes. Even regardless of using my vehicle for that purpose initially, I lost out on 2 separate really good jobs this year, job hunting, just because they were in locations that required cars. Yeah. Like the guy was like flat out, I tried this with somebody who took the bus. I'm too far from a bus stop. You're never going to stay here. And I looked it up. It's like 2 hours to get there each direction. So it's like a lot of people work in locations, or like if I get hired in Laval right now, got a job, I need a car. It's not actually reliable for me to do public transit and go to Laval every day. It's just part not.
Why I need an automobile as well, because looking for a new job.
People that live in NDG that require automobiles, so all empathy to that. And I think a lot of people could cycle, but when it comes down to the realities of work, it's just what it is. And in a city as large as the one we live in, with the way that there's not actually that much to work in NDG. It's not like people stay here for work. We all pretty much leave unless we work from home, with limited exceptions.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So Holden, if I could be so bold to, I just recovered from a bug. I don't know what it is. What it was. Excuse me. I apologize. But let's talk about have the bike path update. The Terrebonne Bike Path update, and Holden actually was present at the information session.
I went to the information session.
So we need a Holden report. Why don't you give us your lowdown on that eve? Yeah, go ahead.
And I pulled up at about 6:07 p.m. because I wasn't fully going for the information session. I was more motivated by the anti-bike path protest / counter protesters. And I'll give Erwin his credit. He got 75 or so people there. He can call whatever number he wants. I've been counting crowds for a lot of years. It's actually like a thing. Plus we filmed it, so you can count. But still, 75 people is no joke. That's a lot of people when it affects like 300 parking spots. 75 is a sizable percentage. Insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but sizable still. Then
no. 75 people is it's a big number of people to pull out, especially, there's not a lot of people that come up for these issues, right?
And then there were about 15 counter protesters, and to be fair, it was the counter protesters that were shit disturbing. Erwin kept his people reasonable, and even though there's that one mashed up guy who acted like a goonie and was very embarrassing for everybody because he was a grown man acting like a fool. Outside of him, everybody on the anti-bike path team actually behaved really appropriately, and it was kind of the bike path people, like the with the helmets, kind of being annoying and like screaming. And it's like, fine, you can do that, but you are counter protesting these peaceful protests these people are doing. So I felt like that was poor tactics on their side, and they did instigate any angst. But so we go inside, and I don't know, all the seats were full. So as far as how many people were there, it was all the seats were full plus 30 or 40 people. That's how many people came, and to a point where I don't think even the city was prepared for that.
That's like a 300-person crowd. That's a big crowd. That's a big hall in there. That's a big hall.
Apparently, it's a 200-person capacity where I did a quick count, and it's between 200 and 300 people. Fair. I don't know. I could pull open my video and count the number of seats. I just don't care enough to.
Wow, that's a huge turnout. That's massive. Yeah.
It was pretty big. Then the mayor comes out and does her thing in French, and then flips into English, her intro speech, upon which Mr. Rappaport got chastised by the mayoress because he was being a little obnoxious in that moment. But in all fairness, I think this was the time and place for him to be obnoxious, was kind of in the information session. Like, what's the point of having your public there if you can't let them voice how they feel, right? That's my opinion. Then they do the whole presentation in French, which was weird, considering I get that Quebec has laws, but considering the entire opposition to this speaks English, it was a silly tactic if your goal was to appease the people, just on some basic business strategy shit. And then there was meant to be a question period after where Despina was going to translate questions for the presentation guy. So what I saw was people did not understand the presentation and were actually expressing that mid-presentation, upon which they were silenced and told to wait till the end to follow the structure, but were assured that, don't worry, we'll be here all night. We got you. And they said that multiple times. Then question time came, and so I feel split on this because personally I find these grandstanding 8-minute questions to be awful and showboaty. And everybody had to tell their whole freaking story for their question. They were not there to ask questions. They were there to speak their piece. I get you. That's what you wanted to do. Like, that was the approach. But I feel like that's their right. That's the whole point of this crap, is to give the people the opportunity to speak. While it might be technical questions and not political, all they wanted to say, you did tell them you're willing to be here all night. And then it felt like they were rushing everybody who were just trying to frame their questions. And often what happened, I felt, was because people didn't know that their questions were answered in French already, it felt like the city officials were annoyed by the repetition of the questions, which was stupid, in my opinion, because the people told them they didn't understand and that everything would get cleared up in question time, but then would say things like, well, he already answered that in the presentation. Nah, B, that's bad customer service. And if you're a city politician, you're ultimately a giant customer service rep for the city. That's your main job. Y'all are glorified project managers. Let's be fucking real. There's no power in these elected officials. You're glorified project managers / customer service reps. That's why you get elected, to rep us and put up with our crap. That being said, I think it's pretty shitty the way people treat Peter McQueen to his face. I saw him get disrespected to his face multiple times, and I don't know what people hope to accomplish from that. Weird.
What happened with Peter McQueen? People
were like in his face heckling him, like he's solely responsible for this. Like,
right.
Oh, you lost your voters. Like, fucking don't vote then. Nobody, like, just to the people out there, nobody cares when y'all are doing your grandstanding. Like, all the grandstanding questions, everybody felt like there were these haymaker arguments, and they were trash. On a level of, like, good arguments to bad arguments, 90% of people's arguments were really bad. Like, just bad debate tactics. Bad politics if your goal was to create change. However, there were 2 good questions I heard, or 2 really good points from the people against this study. One was, if the data that you're presenting says CD and NDG, do you have the data as just NDG?
Right.
And they did not have that in their presentation. And frankly, CDN should not have been included in the data. And that actually changes the need priority, because it does, because like CDN's less dense, if I'm not mistaken, and it's completely different. So the fact that they had the data but chose not to present it is suspect. Apparently, there was that one lady who was on the council, and she just spent like 8 minutes railing about how they ignored her, and she was there, so she knows, and da 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 da. And I don't know. She went on. That's the problem. They talk so long that like their point gets lost in their weird moral grandstanding. But apparently they ignored some of the debates. But the other main point that people had was that this was only studied on a given Thursday and a given Saturday when they did all their numbers to track it. But then everyone was also mad that it cost $150,000. But then everyone's also mad that they didn't do more studying. And I'm like, I don't think y'all understand how studies work. Like, let's just picture a basic person's salary. You're paying them shittily, obviously, because $150,000 for 2 years means nobody's getting paid good. You're maybe paying 2 people $35K a year to do this. Maybe. If they're full-time on this, probably not, because that budget doesn't sound like you can afford 2 people full-time on this. So you're paying people part-time with that salary. Like, you know, like, because that's what you're paying is the researchers to do all their researching. So nobody wants to spend more money to study this properly, is what I heard. And everyone was laughing at how the $150K got spent, but it's like, that's a tiny number to do a study. When you think about how humans are and how you pay people, like it's a weird thing to me. I don't know what people really want. Do you really want it studied properly, or do you not want that? Because you clearly do not want them to spend more money on the study.
$135,000 in the grand scheme of things, especially when you're talking about the city of Montreal budget, is not a lot of money. No. I'll admit to that. I do think though that as you mentioned earlier, and I always say this, is that democracy is messy, and I think that perhaps what happened or explains some of the grandstanding or showboating, as you call it, is that a lot of people felt they never had the chance to really say their piece. And this forum was an information session. It wasn't a public consultation. And I think people felt like the how do you say, they had missed the opportunity or chance for public consultation.
That's a fact.
Yeah. And I think that I personally my experience viewing the whole bike path introduction process, I think that the city has decided, along with the elected officials, is to look at the available data that's available, call on the experts that have been involved in these projects in this city and other cities, make a decision, and then basically flip the switch and go for it. Because if they don't, they're always going to hit a barrage of opposition. It's just part of the process. And that's unfortunate, because I do think that
I do think the city should have let the people talk, because they did keep saying crap at the beginning, like we're going to be here all night for you. And then once the all night start started to kick in, it looked like everybody wanted to go home. And I just feel like, unfortunately, they handled that poorly.
That's another problem is that they do a presentation, right? And they're presenting the data. And clearly they want to present the data in the most positive way possible, right? They want to sell this. But a lot of people there don't want to be sold. They don't like the idea, because there's just kind of that NIMBY kind of variable factor involved. Not in my backyard, right? And a lot of people are going to be inconvenienced by this on Terrebonne. Now, look, I'm guilty of sin. I'm a contractor. I own service vehicles. I need places to park them. Having an automobile is necessary for me to make to make a living. And if the city had done something to my street that had interfered with my ability to park my car or my truck or whatever the case may be, I would be upset about that. So I see it, I understand it. And they had council last night, and I wasn't able to attend either, because I had to deal with my ailing parents, and I had a cold, still suffering from that. But I saw like what's happening in social media today, and like Erwin Rappaport and his crew is, oh, we had a great turnout, and this, people really post this, and then special, there's a Velo Association for pedestrians and cyclists and NDG. Oh, great turnout! Lots of people showed up. There's a lot of
I
support.
can tell you one thing. I'm pretty sure that all of those people, 95%, are of the same background as skin color of me is the other main observation I had. This is the whitest shit I ever seen. Like, y'all can't call this a community issue if it's one demographic, y'all. Like, I don't know if people are even aware of that fact. Like, I looked around and I'm like, where is any of the other cultures really? Like, there were individuals of the non-white variety there, but before we paint this as a giant community issue, we might want to focus on the demographics that actually care about this issue before we paint it in a blanket statement.
What are the demographics in your mind that are like that's part of this issue, or this issue is important?
Well, I'm going to say I didn't see anyone from the Chinese community there, and there is clearly a large one in NDG because I live by Cavendish, and I see who's on the bus. And you just got to take the bus to see your demographic breakup.
Right.
Just get on the bus.
Okay.
I see the black folk represented there. I see the Indian folk, the Sri Lankans. I don't know how many are in them, but I didn't see much demographics outside of what probably comes from the typical old stock of NDG honkies.
Like me.
And I'm not like actually bringing this up to like be a shithead. People might think with my language choice, that's how I express myself. However, it's a sincere thought. Like, why were none of my black homies caring about this issue at all? They think it's a joke how much people care about this issue. So that got me wondering.
Why do they think it's a joke?
I didn't get that far with it. But for fun, Google white people problems and see what comes up, and it'll give you some context beyond what I can do in a very short period of time.
Well, I lived in Cotonou, and I saw
another homie of me. Another homie of mine put it like, well, the population affected is not young, and the more not young you are, the more you care about luxury and less about real issues. And
I don't know if it's about that. For example, in Cotonou, please.
And I might be wrong. I'm just expressing it from.
Okay, but I lived in Cotonou, and Cotonou is a lot more diverse than NDG is. And what I noticed there is that. Like, for example, one of my preoccupations in Cotonou was, traffic was out of control. People were speeding. It was not safe for kids and families, and there was a cleanliness problem. And when it came to the traffic issue, when talking to recent immigrants about, congestion and circulation, to them, lots of traffic and circulation was a good thing. It was a sign of wealth and prosperity, right? So the perspective was kind of like different on the ails.
I'm just saying,
of an urban environment, right? For them, lots of traffic, lots of circulation meant lots of customers, lots of cars meant people had a lot of disposable income. They could afford automobiles. These things were good. And a city that has lots of traffic and congestion, to them, this was a positive, economic development. They saw it in a positive way. So it's sometimes you get these kind of like disconnects.
All I'm saying is that it was just like, look, maybe it's not the right thing to watch for, and I get criticized by all kinds of people for how I see the world. Fair enough.
Right.
But it's super noticeable when the whole room is pretty damn white. And all I'm trying to say is it was painted as a big community issue.
Right.
But I know that NDG, from when I last looked at a census, is like 50% white at most. So shouldn't it be more broken up if it's a global community issue in that room?
But then comes the next big question, right? Holden, when you raise that issue, is it just about bicycle lanes, or is it about enfranchisement? Do the visible and cultural minorities feel disenfranchised from the political system, so they just kind of abandon it? It's just like,
Man, so
it
then the
doesn't.
question I would ask is it because we're debating bike paths with this passion and not discussing other issues like how people can't afford rent?
Well, like when we had the Black Lives Matter and we had the protests in NDG, you went there, was the majority of the people that attended that event were, people, visible minorities. And why wasn't there more white people there? I don't know. Maybe
That's a
different
great
issues.
question, Alex. Why weren't there more? That's a great question, and I would love to ask the community.
I feel like I'm going to get myself in trouble on this subject, but maybe
sometimes you got to just take stances that put you on the right side of history. Anyone can get mad at me for asking that question comfortably. Why weren't we all there? I went to the ones downtown. I was right there when the police instigated some weirdo shit. It didn't escalate that bad, but it looked suspect. And so, like, if we don't have solidarity as a community thinking about all of the community issues, then you could ask yourself, and I've been shit posting on this issue, and then I posted this video of a bicyclist in the winter that Chris filmed, and this was just like 2 days ago. And the hate I saw was ridiculous. I actually deleted the post. You got to understand, if I'm deleting a post, it's weird to me.
Jeez.
Like the amount of divisiveness where my shit post got taken incorrectly because I heard people say, "Zero, I never saw any," because at the same information session, "I have never seen a single bicyclist in the winter." And I'm like, well, they exist.
It does. One. And you know what? Every year that passes by, there's more. And I guess that the city's mind, and Joel Shijo,
yeah, he told us how to say it. I don't know.
Yeah, he raised the issue. The city's mindset is build it and they will come. You need the infrastructure in place for people to be safe, and then people will start cycling.
The real talk is Sherbrooke should have been made the bike path. If we real talking that, I know nobody want to have that chat, but Sherbrooke should have been made the damn bike path.
Yeah, but the thing is, we have a bike path down. Like, let me be the devil's advocate.
The Maisonneuve's bike path is so out of the way that unless your direct goal is to...
Why is it?
No, it is. It is.
No,
it is.
Like, you have to go all the way down this extra hill, and it's not as level. Right? I don't even go to Maisonneuve until I hit Madison because I don't want to deal with the freaking hill going up from around Grand.
I do the same thing, yes.
So
I know what
how
you're
is
saying.
it that this is the most amazing bike path ever, but you and I both avoid it because there's hills on this bike path that we don't want to deal with?
Right.
So everyone, and then I do Uber Eats on the bicycle. You can't go to Maisonneuve. You're too far from restaurants now to get dinged, and it is literally a proximity issue. So if you on Sherbrooke, you can get dinged from Monkland stuff too if you're in the right spot. That's not happening. Like, Maisonneuve is an excellent bike path for if you're shooting all the way downtown. But like outside of that, I hate taking Maisonneuve. If I'm going within NDG, it's an awful out of my way bike path.
Well, I personally like the Maisonneuve bike path after you get past that bump you talk about, and you take it and you go past Vendôme, you're going through Westmount, and you get downtown.
All of that's lovely.
It's a beautiful ride. And why isn't the bike path on the Sherbrooke? That I guess that
because there won't be one on Sherbrooke because there's one on Maisonneuve. But for all the reasons people said that it should go to Summerled, it actually should go to Sherbrooke, minus schools. But like,
I see your point. But Summerled, I don't want to get into that conversation because you got to look at a map and like see, because I've cycled.
Summerled doesn't go nowhere.
I've cycled.
Summerled's just gonna bring you back into like Coast-Saint-Luc Road.
I used to cycle Summerlet all the time because I used to live on Queen Mary, and I used to go to the Loyola campus at Concordia, and I used to go down Summerlet because you would go down and you would hit Broadway and you come down, you'd be there, right? Because Terrebonne and Monkland all whack into like you can't go through, you get stopped. So yeah, and I did that for many years. And I've taken Côte St. Catherine quite a bit, where it's a protected bike path in Outremont to get to, because I went to McGill as well. So I did the other side of
I
the mountain.
love the Lucerne Côte St. Catherine Bike Path Connect. Lucerne is beautiful.
And yeah. And in my later years, when I had my midlife crisis, I rode up Lacombe to
I think that's what I'm thinking of. Lacombe, whatever, Lucerne, somewhere around there.
Get up the mountain, get to the top of the mountain. I'd go up Lacombe and go through Outremont and get up. That was my exercise thing. Tried to do
look,
that.
I don't know. I just think that like when you really consider all the issues that we face as a community, this is not really a huge issue.
All right, so why don't we go on to an issue, the next issue, which I think...
say where DJ Magnanimous is here. I used to cycle a lot before last year, and I don't use bike paths there. In the worst condition, the most roads. If you know how to circulate in city traffic, you can manage being on any road with cars, except for Canal de Chine or Rachel. Facts.
Oh, thank you for contributing. So why don't we move on to an issue which I think impacts us all, is trains.
They do impact us all, whether or not we like to admit it. Let's get the train man update, the train facts. True. I didn't have a good audience.
This is where we take a break in the show, and I rabble about train stuff just because, I can.
There we go.
So what I wanted to talk today, because take a break, because this conversations kind of get heavy, and it's like, no, what, we need our fun too, right? And just like we need our cats. And I have two, by the way.
Oh, nice.
What I wanted to talk about was motive power, the development of motive power in locomotives. So we all know that trains found their birth in steam. And steam was, what we did was we boiled water, of all things. Very simple, isn't it? In a pressurized tank that created this enormous amount of pressure that drove pistons that basically created this motive power that could pull cars and pull cargo. And that transformed the world as we know it. And, rail was an important part of the economic development of North America, as well as Europe, worldwide. And at some point in time, the transition was made to diesel. And the reasons for that were for many reasons. One of the big reasons is that diesel trains were a lot less expensive to maintain. They needed less fuel. And the other big thing with diesel trains is that they were a lot cleaner than steam engines. Because if you talk to people in the old days who lived by the tracks where the steam engines used to run, they actually would remove the laundry when the trains passed, because the coal that these things would burn and the fumes that they would spew out would just be like really dirty. In fact, back in the 20s and 30s, when steam and coal was the major source of power, believe it or not, we created electricity by burning coal, because that predated hydroelectric with hydroelectric dams, right?
Yeah.
And the city of Montreal was disgustingly dirty. It was like it was almost rain soot on us, on our heads, right? You want to talk about air pollution. And so there was that transition that happened. But when people think of a diesel locomotive, you think like a diesel truck, like a diesel engine, right? No. A diesel locomotive, believe it or not, is a big, massive electric generator. They basically generate electricity to run electric motors. And why they do that is because when you drive an electric motor, there's less moving parts necessary. You don't need a transmission. The motor's right on the axle, and it's a more efficient use of power than direct drive transmission diesel engines. So people are always surprised to hear about that. So
I did not know diesel was cleaner.
Yeah. So I have visuals. Visual aids. So here we go, right? I always have a tough time with the camera. So there you go. Our standard diesel, right? This is 2.8 steam engine with a tender, right? It burned coal. Believe it or not, in the old days, these actually ran when the first tracks were being laid in North America. They used wood. They were burning wood, just like you would burn in a fireplace, right? That's what
Right.
they used. Then what happened was that in the States, they implemented legislation because in the States, like in the city centers like New York, they said, okay, no more coal. We're choking ourselves to death. So they actually laid electrical lines in many American cities in the central core. And what you do is you would take an electric train to exit the city. And then once you got out of the city, you would transfer to a steam engine that burned coal to get the long distances, because then it didn't make sense to lay the wires and then you were outside the urban area. So the pollution had to, could dissipate.
Right.
And then the diesel engines we know today, right, are these things. You guys all know this guy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Regular train.
when you think of this thing, right, the first impression you get is that it's a diesel engine like a truck. No. These trains, believe it or not, are massive electrical generators that are basically powering electrical motors. Isn't that bizarre? Remember when we had the big ice storms?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They drove these things up to high hospitals because they used them for electrical generators. They were using the cars to generate electricity for the hospital. So I thought that was an interesting tidbit. And then, are you guys familiar with the Exo train? Here it is, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've seen this before. This runs right off the Maisonneuve, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I've taken that.
This is a hybrid, right? It's a diesel electric, right? But if you look here, it has, this is what we call a pantograph. That's what goes up and hits the wires and pulls the power from the wires to drive the engine. So it could either use the generator diesel engine to give it the electricity it need, or you could pull it from the overhead wires. So there's our train break. Now we go on to the next big topic. Inflation.
So the short version is everything's more expensive and your money's worth less.
Thank you.
Your salary is not going up to match it. So welcome to hustle culture. Gary V apparently wasn't full of shit.
What's that? What was that last part?
I was making a joke because Gary V is like the king of hustle culture, and he's like, just grind it out, and you're only broke if you want to be. And weirdly, if you do adopt a mentality like that, you will find ways to make money in this economy because you really probably want to increase your revenue.
But let me ask this question, okay? I have felt directly the pressures of inflation. I run my own business. I'm a general contractor, and I've felt that. And my question is, you guys are younger than me. You're in the millennial stage. Like you've already guys called me an old man several times already in the show, which is okay.
It's how to be forever and ever.
I'm Gen X, and
I don't think I'm that old. 18-year-olds, and they call me old.
So tell me, guys, have you felt the pressures?
Everywhere,
how?
Man. Grocery store. Everybody goes to the same grocery store, and like grocery store for sure. Anything else, right? The grocery store alone is like, we all it's 40% up from last year or whatever, which was already X% up from like 2 years ago. And again, salaries ain't matching. So with shrinkflation especially is where I see the grocery store shit happening, which is just when they make packaging smaller but keep the price the same. But then they also keep the shrinkflated size and then just increase the price after we get used to that price. So like definitely, like how the hell is a 220 gram bag of Lay's $5? I'm not saying it's the greatest reference, but remember when that bag was $3? Anyway, so like food is a huge one, but I mean, for me
you see the plastic bottles. If you've picked them up underneath, they got this kind of ball that punches in the bottle a hole, so they need less product to fill it up, like stuff like that. Yeah,
all of it. And then like the other side of it, where I personally see it, is in just entertainment, right? Like I know how much it costs to throw a concert now, and every price went up. So like you're not finding $5 tickets anymore because all the venues have to deal with all the rent shit from COVID, so all the venues got more expensive. Everyone else's bills went up, so everyone else got more expensive, and it just kind of is like everyone just kind of needs to start charging more. A lot of free things are disappearing because people don't have the luxury of time, because you really do have to be working more. And you really do have to be hustling more. Questions like immediate ROI become more pertinent. So all of a sudden, trying to take a year to go, wait for a profit is a different situation when you're worrying about paying rent. of which
And
apparently, from what I've learned from you, next year I'm gonna have a much higher rent. So like, you know, like, it's
Yeah,
all over.
I talked to a landlord recently and had a conversation with him vis-a-vis his bills, and he told me the biggest bill that he pays, and heat is included in his rent. The biggest bill that he pays is municipal taxes, and we've seen also like for example in NDG, a lot of buildings heat with natural gas, and natural gas has gone up. It went up and it was a big bump, and now it's going back down again. But we've seen fossil fuels being hit, and fossil fuels, in spite of all our best desires that we become this green economy, is basically the fuel that's driving the majority of our transportation vehicles, be them, you know, um, tankers that are container ships, tankers,
I'll be honest, I just haven't been
trucks.
driving long enough to feel the gas.
Yeah, well, I remember when it was 40 cents a liter, and now we're like almost $2. We were at $2 at one point.
Thankfully, I got in when it went down
it's
to $1.57 again.
yeah, but don't forget that affects everything, right? It's the farmers picking up vegetables in their field. How do you think they get it to market? They put in a truck that burns gas. How
I
do you
mean, it
think they
affects
harvest it?
everything down to how fast your food comes with Uber Eat. Because, yo, when a gas is $1.75, you think there's as many Uber drivers on the road?
Yeah. So it really it's has a massive impact, and that drives inflation. And again, the
Have you seen
Ukraine.
it, Chris?
well, something I wanted to
You gotta
connect from
lower
a
your
little bit
mic.
earlier.
I don't know why your mic keeps going up.
I don't know. Is that better? I'll just push it
Yeah,
back.
No,
we
like
can see
lower
your
the
face
volume
now.
on your receiver.
Is that better?
Not really. I don't know why you're so loud.
I don't know why I'm loud either. I'm not getting any. I'm not getting any even volume on my sound card.
He
That's
sounds good
weird.
to me. He says good to me.
He
But
sounds louder than you, which is the
oh,
issue. Anyway,
okay.
okay, go for it. We'll run it
Go
still.
for it.
So
So
the
keep
thing I was
go
gonna
farther
try to
from the
relate it
mic,
to,
not closer to the mic.
what I was gonna relate it to was like something we mentioned earlier about wanting to be part of like causes. When you brought up like the Black Lives Matter and not having a lot of like people there, or just different things that we wanted to do within the city. And I was gonna say like I think because we're all trying to do this hustle culture, we're all busy working, we're all impacted by inflation and all these prices and everything. We've lost touch with a lot of our community values, our community aspects, and things that we want to try to do to be like, let's say, one united, because we're so focused on paying bills, the economy, and like what's going to be happening moving forward. That's kind of how I see inflation. Everything else I agree with Holden. I mean, I remember when I'm kind of very bad at math, so I can't really give you the pricing difference in terms of groceries, but I know that like even before COVID, I used to spend roughly around $200 and have like 3, 4 bags of groceries. Now I'm spending the same amount and I'm walking out with like a backpack and a bag. So just the difference in bags alone for myself, I'm like, okay, I can see that there is a difference in what I'm spending to compared to what I was getting before. My own personal experience, cigarettes, like cigarettes used to be hella cheap. Now for the same thing that arguably is like, not good for me or whatever, they're double the price now. Um,
And for all the
so
people that might be like, okay, so quit, blah blah blah. Look, like it's still a cost a lot of people deal with, and it's like over 20 a pack for a decent pack of smokes, if I'm not mistaken.
roughly at this point, yeah. I mean, but then you want to have that argument. Look at the prices of vapes. It's the same shit. Like getting a
No,
vape is
it
essentially
is absolutely okay. Getting a vape is complicated because of fucking Quebec's law, but that's not such a city issue. It's
fair.
not an inflation issue. It's an excise tax issue, which is very separate than inflation.
Understood. But that's
Yeah, but
kind of just how I see it,
but,
though.
but to go back to UCC, I don't think
Mhm,
it's my place or anybody's place
mhm.
to make judgments or values on your prep the
Oh no,
basket
of
of goods that you
course.
buy. You buy in a basket of goods.
And it's a
You're free.
legitimate statement to be like, it
You,
costs more now.
you're
No, of
free
course.
man,
I'm just
right?
I'm just
And
giving
you're
my
and in microeconomics, they call that your personal basket of your goods that you purchase on a regular basis, and that's how you're feeling inflationary
Mhm.
pressures or price
Mhm.
increases.
It's all
So
over.
No,
And
absolutely. I don't even take offense if somebody wants to judge it. I'm just more like, I think I'm speaking for the people who may feel like me and think like me, where it's like, I remember going out and being like, okay, $200 gets me like, you know, bread, milk, cheese, all the utensils, pastas, da 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 da. And it's like, okay, I'm good for 2 weeks. But then within that $200, it's also like, hey, I still can get my double pack of cigarettes. I can still get my extra little gifts that I want for myself, my little treats, or my vices, however. But now it's like that same 200, arguably maybe 150, is kind of like not even equivalent to what it was before. And it's only been what, 3 years?
I
right.
think what
4
really
years,
matters
maybe?
is like, because I know like I can't speak that liberally on this, but salary increases are garbage in Quebec for employee retention. It is common knowledge that if you want to make more money, quit your fucking job and go job hunting. Well, don't
Mm-hmm.
quit, find the job and then
So
bounce up.
just with
So,
that,
in an economy like this, where you no longer have the freedom to just job hunt so liberally and take
mm-hmm.
those kinds of risks, you're kind of stuck with whatever percentage point base salary rate they give you.
So just to kind of speak on that a little bit, it's like, just this kind of wraps in the whole car convo as well. I'm currently looking for different employment, trying to level up and do whatever. But like, in order for me to do a different type of job, I need some sort of automobile or a vehicle that'll get me to that spot, because like Holden said, some of these places are like 2 hours away by public transit. And that, I'm thinking, okay, well, if we take that and match that with inflation, how am I'm going to have to work double, triple the time to be able to match what I need just to go get that cushy extra job I'm looking for,
And keep
which
in mind, like if you're an English speaker, it's like there's a
it's
good chance
harder.
that company is going to be in Ville Saint Laurent. There's a good
Yeah.
chance that like you're sure the downtown core has offices, but if I'm not mistaken, it was a huge issue for how gutted the downtown core is for offices. So
I
people
mean, I
left and
haven't
went to
gone back
other.
to,
Well, I meant like there's just
okay.
globally less businesses employing people downtown. So where do you think all these people are employing? I'm sure a lot of contracts deaded downtown. There's a lot, but there's a lot of stuff in like Ville Saint Laurent, in
Mm-hmm.
Lachine, in all these
Mm-hmm.
areas where it's not easy to get to with the downtown sector, and there are just a lot of jobs in Montreal beyond that. Just because I
Right.
know like there's this like fantasy that it's so easy to get a job, but like let's say even if it's on a metro line, have like you really tried to go to like Lacadie or whatever, if you're like coming from NDG
I
and
mean,
stuff, like it's still like you could end up going pretty far with public transit, even with metros and stuff. Like some of
not
these
even
metros are
that, but
30
some of
minutes
the,
on the metro, let alone the travel time to get there.
but not just
Where if
that, the
you're
locations of the spot from the metro is not walking distance. It's not like, even with an extra bus, it's another 15, 20
of
minutes.
which aren't they about to have some real bus issues? I heard that they might be limiting that because they're broke and they mismanaged the
Right.
whole
yeah,
STM.
well, the problem with the STM is that you guys are a manifestation of that. You guys are doing side hustles, or you're taking work that's taking you off normal paths, and you got yourself automobiles. And then what happened during the pandemic was really bad for public transportation for two reasons. First reason is that the pandemic, a lot of us were quarantined. And then what happened during the pandemic was that there was this massive drive for people to work from home, right? So they didn't need to commute anymore. They don't need to take public transportation. And then
Wow, such
remember,
a great time.
and then remember, there were actually outbreaks that were attributed to people who went on public transportation. So people didn't want to take public transportation because they didn't want to be exposed to COVID. So the numbers just collapsed, and they still haven't recovered. And
Well, I think
it's
there's also no like enticement to want to go downtown anymore. Like,
really,
besides, yeah, no, truthfully, like,
No,
besides, at
downtown
least for
is
me,
not popping.
besides having to perform and the occasional going to hang out with friends and grab a drink, I
mhm.
don't see the purpose in going downtown. And it's crazy because throughout my teenage years, throughout like early moving into the island, I was downtown all the time, like just sitting on like church steps and chilling with friends and like walking through Place des Arts and like just walking up and down St. Catherine. I no longer have that want or that feel. Like, I'm not interested. I don't get me wrong. When
Hey,
I go out,
this is
I
this
enjoy
is
it.
this is called growing old, bud.
I mean-
I was gonna be like, I don't know if this is really a problem for the city, or if this is your 30 now. So welcome to being old.
I mean, hey, it's one or the other. One or the other.
But to that end, if you are old,
No, but I hear you.
Like,
I think
there is just,
CC has a point
less
though. I
to
think
do downtown than there used to be. I think the plateau has dominated, just dominated, and downtown got like less fun.
well, I can't really speak of that because I'm an old man, and I don't go clubbing like I used to. I remember going out, getting cabin fever, and like I used to be big and going out Friday, Saturday. I really enjoyed the entertainment scene in Montreal. I was, the nightlife was a big part of my life.
Also, people are
for good- for
broker
good-
in the younger generations.
They
so
are?
you got to keep
Like,
in mind, like you got to think about drink prices. Everything comes down to drink prices.
Wheel Club
On your average, it's cheap for grown-ups with salaries. Like,
Yeah.
when you got to understand, like when I was young, there was $20 4-liter pitchers at PJ's, right?
right?
So when I was young, there was $20 rum and coke pitchers at Belmont. I used to sell concert tickets by talking about the pitcher prices and shit. Like, people didn't care about the music. They're like, yo, the cheap drinks is there. Let's fucking go. Then the Sardakis guy or whoever it is, the one that bought all the... He bought all the bars. He deaded the cheap drinks, and I ain't seen cheap drinks like that since. And if you don't think there's...
You blame Sergakis for that.
He bought all the places with cheap drinks and deaded them. All of a sudden, it's a $32 4-liter pitcher, and it was like
okay.
that, bro. It was like that because I was still like in my Tinder days back then. So like, you watching this type of shit. But I think it made a difference because since then I've inquired about the partying habits of people. There's a huge transition away from alcohol with younger people. Like, yes, a lot of young people drink, but significantly less young people drink. Yes, they do other drugs.
Yeah,
but,
they drink a lot less. I've noticed that in my own kids. My
but
kids
motherfuckers be in the bar
19,
walking around with their
23.
little
They don't
vape
drink.
pens. They have their little vape pens inside the club, walking around, getting
Not
high
even
as a
that.
kite.
Not even that. All my daughter, her friends, and my son and his friends. Yeah,
I'm
they
not going to
drink,
talk
but
about your kids and their drug habits because I don't know if they're telling you / I don't know what's up. But I can tell you that, like, I'm seeing that young people are not getting drunk like that. They're getting to the same degree that we did, partly because people can't afford to get drunk like that. And it's cheaper to go to the damn SAQ in such a significant way and just party with your peoples, get an Airbnb, go have fun. Like, there's so many better options to party if you're really trying to party that, like, why would you go to a lot of these clubs?
But maybe can I throw something in? Is the demographic composition of Montreal changing? Like, is there less young people than there were 20, 30 years ago? Like that is a phenomenon,
I don't think it's
right?
that. I think if anything, Gen Z's fucking thriving population-wise. I think, though, that they are smarter with money and that they don't... The drinking thing is real. There's less of them drinking across the board.
That, like, private party thing, too. Like, a lot of them...
But, like, I just think people, like... adapt to the circumstances. But like, if you can't, if you're called, like, let's say you turn 18 in COVID, right? The young people, like right now, all of this shit's remote. All the bars are fucking closed. Now everything's open. And I think a lot of people go to festivals, things like that, a lot more than they go to individual concerts. They go to big experiences that are like weekend trips, and they go camping at this thing with like 1,000 people, or they'll go to Ile Sonique and spend the whole weekend at Jean Drapeau, Picnic Electronique popping. So they like festivals. They have a more value-driven entertainment thing because it costs so much money. You kind of have to take a value-driven approach to your entertainment, which has shifted a lot of things. Plus, Montreal's a festival city now. It's just festivals everywhere, whether it's food truck festivals, whether it's firework festivals, whether it's just festivals everywhere. And a lot of this is public and free and accessible. And I don't think y'all had that growing up. Not at all like we do now.
I don't know. When I grew up, we had a lot of festivals. We had the the Jazz Fest. It's been going on since I can
I mean,
remember.
Alex, from May until October, there is a festival every single weekend at Cartier de Spectacles.
We have
Every
Igloo Fest,
weekend.
but Igloo Fest you have to pay to get access. It's not free, right?
No, but I'm
But I
saying
think,
like, but then there's Mural Fest, then there's this fest. Like there's so many, like Saint Laurent gets shut down for the weekend, and you can just walk around, kind of
but I
stuff
think
going
that
on.
also leads
I don't know if it was
to-
that popping back in the day like that, but it feels like to me, it's almost every weekend
But
for
I think
like
that
half the
also
year.
leads to a conversation of like, now maybe this is my own hypothesis, but festivals offer better social media pictures, better social media
Facts.
videos, social media. Like, so I'm not saying that all of Gen Z is like that or all of the younger ones, but a lot of them do care about Instagram. A lot of them do
And you
care about
don't
their
have to.
social their presence. So if they're at Mural Fest, it looks way better for them than just Blue Dog.
Plus, you can
No,
smoke a
no
lot
hate to Blue
easier
Dog.
outside. And I know that sounds like whatever, but you can't smoke inside no more. And that has drastically, that one thing has altered everything about nightlife.
If I'm gonna, I can only speak like if I look at my little brother.
That's an interesting observation there, Holden.
He also
I
does
turned
a lot
18
of.
the year that smoking got banned, and I watched like it all change, right? Like, cause I mean, I've been at concerts where you're allowed to smoke weed inside, and I've been at, like, we recently went to a spot underground, and they had a inside smoking section. That shit keeps everybody around. The second you have to go outside to smoke, I mean, everyone just, like, they all spend half the night outside in front of the bar smoking. So it's like, there's a lot of things that changed that make young people maybe not want to be going to bars like back in the day.
So, but we this was a great conversation, but I want to, gentlemen, if
We can go back to inflation.
Yeah, inflation. What I see, with inflation, being, the son of an accountant and a business owner is, personally, how it's impacted me is that my labor costs have gone up, right? Because my employees are, I need a raise in order to meet my living expenses, and my employees are very important to me. They're the reason why I can provide the services that I can provide to my customers. Without them, I'm essentially nothing. And then on top of that, material costs have gone up significantly in the construction industry. It's been just absolutely ridiculous, and shrinkflation as well. We've seen like bags, for plaster, powder plaster that we use in our work. They shrunk by 25%. So I'm seeing all this, and I feel like as a homeowner, as a business owner, I feel very squeezed. And what I see on a macroeconomic level, is that what's happening is that, with larger corporations, there's this lag, especially with collective agreements, right? You have like the government or a company that has an agreement with its employees, and these contracts renew like every 2 years. And then the employees are waiting for the contract renewal to arrive, and they're like, boom, okay, government, we've had inflation for like 10%. I need a raise because I'm no longer enjoying the same standard of living as I was before. So I feel like we're really in this stage, this period right now where everybody's getting squeezed, and we're getting squeezed. Like, and you guys talked about all these hustles you guys got to do to go out there and like make ends meet, and just the basic reference to how much groceries cost, and like how do you adjust to that. And I kind of like, I view it from an individual perspective, how that impacts us all individually, but I also am looking at that, how it impacts us as a community. And I see a lot of frustration and anger out there in terms of like, not people mad at people, like other people, but just mad with their current economic and financial situation. And on social media, I've seen some desperate calls by business owners, seeking out businesses because they're struggling. And if you look at Sherbrooke, and especially the restaurant business, it's just taking a wallop. Like, even I go
Restaurants is a big topic.
Yeah, I went out with my wife, who I adore, of course, and that's a true statement. And I'm just shocked at the how much a simple meal costs these days. You know, it's like my
They
nephew came.
they also took the same 40% food increase that we did.
Yeah, and not only that, but tips are a percentage of like we've seen a lot of inflation in tips.
Yeah,
We're
tipping culture's
we
absolutely fucked. Like, people
tip
can argue what
tip
they
for
want, but the
for everything
percentage
now.
number shouldn't have
Yeah,
changed. The
it's
percentage shouldn't have changed. If
yeah.
15% is a good tip, 20% shouldn't be a good tip because of inflation. It's not how inflation works. It's not how the math actually makes sense. That's just some
Yeah, because
fast one bullshit. Uber Eats and restaurant people pulled on y'all, and everyone just bought into it so far that now nobody wants to go backwards, even though y'all don't even be tipping your delivery people like that. Some of you do.
So it's like I see like all of us being very squeezed by it, but I do also see an opportunity.
I
I
mean,
see
the other side is like, yo, let's be real. Restaurants be wildly luxury. It's a wildly luxury industry. As much as we could argue there are restaurants that maybe serve practical functions in defense of the economy, restaurants are like rappers. I sell food promo. That's what I do. I've talked to a lot of restaurant owners. Restaurants are like rappers. Yes, I would love to say that every restaurant with fresh ingredients, good culinary desires, and a cool concept should succeed. But frankly, I think even when the economy was popping, 1 in 5 Montreals hits 5 years. 1 in 5 restaurants in Montreal hits 5 years in a good economy. So if you went into a restaurant world and you were a restaurateur and that's your dream and you went into it, you may as well be a rapper because you went into the art world. And I would love to feel as bad for you, but it's harder for me because you're taking the same risk I'm choosing to take as an artist. And it's like there's no guarantees if you're going into such a food saturated area as Sherbrooke Street and throwing your restaurant into the mix. And it's not a lack of empathy. It's actually the opposite. I have a really informed, I think, perception on this because people act like restaurants are entitled to be there. And I'm like, why exactly? Grocery stores need to be there. Those are the necessity. And maybe you could argue that there's a need for restaurants in the community, but fuck, we're spoiled in DG. Spoiled.
Yeah, so back
until 11 p.m.
Yeah, I've noticed that restaurants close a lot earlier than they used to. I hear you. But back on the inflation thing, I think there's an opportunity there because I think that because prices are going up and because money was so loose, like 2-3 years ago, money was easy. At least I think it was. It was a period when you had really loose monetary policy by the government. Money was good.
Easy for people who already had money.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But I don't want to get in that conversation. Let's just say it's easy for this argument's sake. Okay, we can argue that later. But now that money is it's not so easy anymore, I think that there's going to be like a renewed interest in basic asking basic financial questions. People are going to start asking themselves budgetary questions, which we may have not done as much before. And I think that's a good exercise because I went CC. I don't know if you were present, but I went through an exercise with Holden and talked about expenses as it related to taxation, municipal taxation, and created a direct link between the rent he pays and the municipal tax that's included in that rent. And I kind of hoping that because I get kind of frustrated that when you talk about taxation or how much we're paying, people kind of get lost in that conversation. They just don't care. It really doesn't impact them. And my hope is that inflation and this crunch, it kind of focus us to have that conversation, right? You were going to say, go ahead, CC. I apologize.
Well, just maybe I'm not fully understanding, but in terms of making a financial budget, right? And tips and tricks on how to budget better. I mean, I've attempted to do that many a times.
Right.
Move away from the mic, Chris.
I've attempted to do that many a times, but what then happens when my budget no longer meets the new economy for next year?
You're
Like, I
about to
think
find out what a lot of people are about to find out. You can't afford your luxuries.
that's really it. Like, yeah.
And I
Yeah.
mean,
And
as much.
and CC, you can't afford your luxuries. Is that going to be pleasant for you? No, it's not. It's not going to be pleasant for me. I've seen in
So
my
it's
own life.
like where you have two choices, unfortunately: get more money or make cuts.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
But unfortunately, the reality of inflation is that all of our money's worth less. So to maintain the status quo of your life prior to COVID, you're either gonna have to make more nominally or cut. And I
Well,
don't think anyone's gonna like that, but we all
I
probably should be doing that.
I'm making less money now, and I can see it. I'm making less money. I'm paying more mortgage, paying more in insurance. Insurance rates have gone up. I'm paying more in my costs have gone up across the board. And you all guys know I'm kind of a train nut. And one of the things I do as a train nut, I buy train stuff, and and I have kind of put the brakes on that. I can't afford to spend $100 on CN costume buttons. I don't have that kind of money around. It's like your cigarettes, right? We all have our drugs, right? And I see myself making those everyday decisions now where I don't have that kind of money. I need that money for groceries. And I think that that is a reality a lot of us are facing, right? In different ways, right? Like I'm very fortunate, like look, I'm blessed. I am a really blessed person. I'm in my mid 50s. I got into the housing market when houses were still relatively reasonable. Mind you, I think the housing market's completely overpriced. There's a bit of a bubble situation.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have like how do you say, a correction?
Yeah, but that correction is going to come at the cost of a lot of millennials and people who got peer pressured into buying condos they can't afford with variable interest rate mortgages that within 3 years, everybody's will have been renegotiated up to a point where all those beautiful $900 a month are now $2,700 a month. And, a lot of people about to get hurt. And unfortunately, it's going to be a lot of young people that got hurt. That's the reality. That's my fear with this inflation.
As I always want to see an opportunity in things, and I don't want to suggest for a second that
it does mean we're gonna be able to buy houses on island one day. Oh my gosh, people under 40, we can finally get them houses that they've been holding off on us.
That's not where I was going with that, but that's cool.
I'm just finding the upside.
I'm repeating my prior point where I think the opportunity that exists there is that people start questioning like how how like their money is being spent, and how they start questioning how the public money is being spent, how it's being managed and dispersed. And like, for example, the whole question of the bike path, and Holden raising the very legitimate point, like how is this a larger community issue? It seems to me very like directed at a very small like group of people. It's not really reflective of the
people who owned homes on Terrebonne.
Yeah. And so, maybe this will force us to start asking bigger questions. And I think that's a good thing, right? And back on your issue, like, and I agree with you, CC. I think what happened during the pandemic is people kind of withdraw from community life. And also what's happening now is that because of the inflationary pressures, people are much more focused on hustling and making ends meet. Maybe that draws their attention away from, engaging in in community activities. So it's gonna be interesting.
Like if I had a regular ass job with regular 9 to 5 hours, I wouldn't be able to do all the extra shit I do. I deliberately chose a life plan that allowed for me to do this, but even that's a privilege.
Yeah, I work for myself like you guys.
Especially parents don't always have that luxury, so I'm not discounting parents.
I mean, to be fair, I do a 9 to 5, and then I have my freedom after.
So you have a 9 to 5 gig, a home 9 to 5 gig. Is that it?
Like I've got a stable 9 to 5, but that's just to make sure I've got a roof over my head, if you wanna food in the thing.
Prosper in this society, if you want to, especially because most of us probably have credit card debt and this, that, the next thing. So like our minimums are there that we all have to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, I hope you guys are not Credit card debt kill you, man. You gotta pay the whole thing, or it's just gonna. If you're
Yo,
not able
Alex,
to pay,
I'm the age group that they got sued over because they were raising our limits without telling us. I'm the age group that they were in the CEGEPs handing us credit cards and giving.
that happened to me. I sold those
I
credit
remember
cards
at one
Concordia.
point I had $12,000 of credit available, and I made $9,600 that year. And there is not a universe that an 18 or 19-year-old should be in that situation. To be honest with you,
They have a whole TV documentary on credit and how they would trap people in basically this poverty. It's a poverty trap. They get you to use their credit cards, right? And then you can't pay the full amount.
Facts.
Then you're paying your ridiculous interest, 18% on the outstanding amounts.
Oh, it's 21 to 22 now. Come on.
Yeah, people, anybody's listening to this has credit card debt, and you can't get out of that. You got to go get help right away. You got to get out of that. That'll kill you. It'll kill you.
Find yourself a financial advisor, homie.
Go to your bank and just tell them, look, it's killing you, and get a loan at a low interest rate and get rid of it, because that's the kind of debt that'll kill you. But I didn't want to go there, but we did.
But I mean, that's the end result of, I guess, a way to deal with inflation is that's what's going to happen is it's going to create credit card debt, and it is a solution. Honestly, there's a lot of financial advisors out there. Find somebody that's a real financial advisor, and this is not financial advice, which we actually have to say on the show, believe it or not, because none of us are. But I do think it's getting to a point where maybe we should wrap it up a bit.
Yeah, I am. In a
Are you certified as?
I'm not a certified, but
we're talking about Quebec legalities right now. We're not talking about knowledge.
Already. But I'm talking about personal finances, and I feel very confident in giving people personal financial advice.
Just not on the internet in Quebec because we're not licensed, and that's a real thing.
Oh, really? Okay, fair enough. I'll stop now then. But yes, we should wrap it up. CC, thank you so much for joining us. Really nice to have you. Thank you for talking about the local art scene. The shortcomings, the opportunities. Or
at least, thank you for sharing what you care about, because that's what politicians aren't doing enough of, is finding the Chris Chromes of NDG.
And Holden introduced you as a good guest, because he says we need to have people that are involved in community members who are not necessarily out there at the bike protests and whatever, and who are
I believe I use the term people who don't vote like that, because I don't really believe Chris be voting like that. No offense. And I'm not trying to put you on blast, but
no, but just to speak on that, I admit, growing up, when I was able to vote, it was very simple for me. My mom told me who to vote for. I walked over and voted for them, and now, because I never felt like nobody was speaking to me. Now, I guess part of it was mindless voting. Now I'm just stuck in where do I start? I think that's really it. Now, granted, I have people like Holden in my life who can help me move
a whole
and thing,
tangent,
but the bigger conversation is, where do I start as somebody who is trying to be into local politics?
City council.
Okay, so let's end this on a rap cipher. Come on, Trainman. Let's go.
Appreciate all y'all for watching this. Appreciate everyone who came through. Inevitably, this will be on YouTube, so subscribe, comment, share this with all of your friends.
Much today.
Share this with all of your friends. Tell all the people that this exists, that this is an English media platform trying to focus on NDG news, and whether or not you like us individually, the goal is to get the community represented and have issues being talked about that the city isn't dictating. So with that being said, thank you again. We appreciate all of you. This has been the Trainman Report, and live long and prosper, everyone.
Get on the train. Get on the train.